Every year, the United States spends $886 billion on its military. Every single year. That's more than the next 10 countries combined. And yet, there is a nation, under decades of crippling sanctions, with no access to Western technology, no Silicon Valley contractors, no trillion-dollar defense corporations, that has built weapons the Pentagon is genuinely worried about. Not worried in the way politicians talk, worried in the way generals whisper. To understand Iran's military today, you have to go back to 1979. Because what happened that year didn't just change Iran's government. It rewired Iran's entire relationship with military technology, forever. Before the revolution, Iran was one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. The Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, had access to the best American weapons money could buy. F-14 Tomcat fighter jets, the same ones Top Gun was made about, advanced radar systems, military helicopters, cutting-edge artillery. Iran was Washington's strategic crown jewel in the region. And then, overnight, it all collapsed. America's ally became America's enemy, and Washington did what Washington always does when a country stops playing by its rules. It cut them off, completely. No more spare parts, no more weapons contracts, no more technology transfers. Every single piece of American military equipment Iran had froze in place. The F-14s couldn't fly. The helicopters couldn't be serviced. The radar systems went dark. Western analysts looked at Iran and said, "Give them 10 years. Their military will collapse on its own." But here's where things took a very different turn. In 1980, Saddam Hussein, backed by the United States, by the Soviet Union, by Saudi Arabia, invaded Iran. The logic was simple. Iran is weak. Iran is isolated. Iran is in political chaos after its revolution. Crush them in 6 weeks. That was the plan. 8 years later, 8 years, the war finally ended. Not with Iran's collapse, with a stalemate, 500,000 to 1 million dead. 8 years, no winner. Iran sanctioned, isolated, cut off from Western technology, had held off a coalition of the world's superpowers for nearly a decade. And during those 8 years, something extraordinary happened inside Iran. Something the West completely missed, because they had no choice. Iran started building its own weapons. From scratch. Here's something economists call the sanctions paradox. And it's one of the most counterintuitive ideas in modern geopolitics. When you sanction a country, you think you're weakening it. Sometimes you are. But sometimes, you accidentally force that country to develop capabilities it never would have built if it could just buy them off the shelf. Think about it this way. If I gave you access to Amazon, you'd never learn to build anything yourself. But if I cut off your Amazon account, take away your credit card, and tell you that you have to survive on your own, some people collapse, and some people become builders. By the 1990s, Iran had launched a domestic defense industrial revolution. Not because they wanted to, because they literally had no other option. And the areas they focused on, they didn't try to beat America dollar for dollar. They couldn't. Instead, they asked a different question entirely. Where is America most vulnerable? And the answer they found changed everything. America's military is built on one core assumption: dominance through technology, superior aircraft, superior communication networks. The entire American war machine depends on those systems working perfectly. Take away the satellites, the GPS goes dark. Jam the communications, the coordination collapses. Blind the radar, the air power disappears. Iran looked at this and saw not a superpower. They saw a very expensive machine with very specific weaknesses. And they spent the next 30 years building tools designed to exploit exactly those weaknesses. Not to fight America head-on, but to make fighting America so costly, so unpredictable, so dangerous, that the price of any conflict becomes unacceptable. Military strategists have a name for this. They call it asymmetric warfare. And Iran has become its most sophisticated practitioner on the planet. Let's talk about drones first, because this is where the story gets genuinely uncomfortable for Washington. In 2011, a classified American RQ-170 Sentinel drone, one of the most advanced surveillance drones the CIA operated, went down over Iranian territory. The official American explanation was that it malfunctioned and crashed. Iran said something different. They said they electronically hijacked it. They said they spoofed its GPS signal, fed it false coordinates, and gently guided it down onto an Iranian runway, completely intact. The American government dismissed this immediately, and then Iran showed the drone on live television, completely intact, not a scratch, The engineering community went very quiet after that, because if Iran had actually spoofed the GPS of a classified American military drone, that meant they had cracked one of the core vulnerabilities of America's entire drone program, and they hadn't just discovered it, they had exploited it perfectly. But that was just the beginning, because Iran didn't just capture that drone, they reverse-engineered it. Within 2 years, Iran had produced its own version, called the Shahed 171, built from studying the captured American technology. Now, I want you to pause on that for a second. A country under full international sanctions, with no access to Western components, captured an advanced American military drone, studied it, and then built their own version of it. That is not the story of a backward military. That is the story of a genuinely capable engineering culture operating under impossible conditions. And the drone program didn't stop there. Today, Iran operates one of the largest and most diverse drone fleets in the world. The Shahed 136, Iran's kamikaze loitering munition, became globally known when it appeared on battlefields in Ukraine. Here's what makes it so significant from a military economics perspective. The Shahed 136 costs approximately $20,000 per unit to produce. The American Patriot missile used to shoot it down costs approximately $3 to $4 million per intercept. Read that again. $20,000 versus $4 million. Iran has essentially built a weapon that forces America to spend 200 times more money to defend against it than it costs to launch it. In a prolonged conflict, that math becomes catastrophic for the defender. This is not accidental. This is deliberate, calculated military economics. And it reveals something important about how Iran thinks about warfare. They are not trying to match America. They are trying to bankrupt the logic of American military dominance. Now let's talk about missiles, because this is where even the most skeptical Western analysts go quiet. Iran today has the largest and most diverse ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. Over 3,000 ballistic missiles of various ranges and capabilities. But the number isn't the impressive part. It's what those missiles can do. In January 2020, following the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani, Iran launched a direct missile strike on the Al-Assad air base in Iraq, a base housing American troops. The strike involved over a dozen ballistic missiles fired from Iranian territory. And here is what made military analysts around the world stop cold. The missiles hit with extraordinary precision, not scattered, not random. Targeted hits on specific hangars, specific runways, specific infrastructure, from over 1,000 kilometers away. America's advanced missile defense systems, systems costing billions of dollars, did not intercept a single one. Not one. The official American response was carefully managed. They said no Americans were killed, which is true. What they said less loudly is that those missiles performed exactly as Iran intended them to perform. It was a demonstration, a very deliberate, very precise demonstration. The message was not, "We are going to destroy you." The message was, "We can hit exactly what we want, from exactly this far away, and your defenses cannot stop us." That is a fundamentally different and more dangerous message. Let's talk about the missile technology itself. Iran's Fateh 110 family of missiles is a short-range ballistic missile with a circular error probable, that's the accuracy measurement, of under 10 meters. Under 10 meters from over 300 kilometers away. For context, American military doctrine considers anything under 30 meters to be a precision strike capability. Iran is hitting under 10. Their Sejil missile is a two-stage solid-fuel ballistic missile with a range of approximately 2,000 kilometers. Solid fuel is critical here. Liquid-fueled missiles take time to prepare. They can be spotted on satellite, you have a window to strike. Before they launch, solid-fuel missiles can be launched within minutes of a launch order. No preparation window. No satellite warning. You either intercept it in the air, or you don't. Iran has been developing solid-fuel technology domestically since the early 2000s. Again, under full sanctions, with no access to Western suppliers. Now, here's where I want to address the counter-argument directly. Because I know what some of you are thinking. This is all exaggerated. America's military is still infinitely more powerful. Iran couldn't survive a full American assault. And you're right. In a conventional, symmetrical war, American air power, naval power, and ground capability would be devastating. Nobody serious is arguing otherwise. But here's the thing. That's not the war Iran is prepared to fight. Iran has no interest in a conventional war with America. What Iran has built is a military doctrine specifically designed to make a conventional American war so costly, so regionally catastrophic, that no American president could realistically order it. This is called deterrence through punishment, and it works differently from deterrence through strength. You don't need to be stronger than your enemy. You just need to make your enemy believe that attacking you will cost them more than it's worth. Iran's missile program targeting American bases across the Middle East. Iran's naval assets threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Iran's proxy network across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. All of it is designed to raise the cost of conflict to a level no American administration has been willing to pay. And so far, it has worked. Let's talk about electronic warfare, because this might be the area where Iran's capabilities are most underappreciated in Western media. Electronic warfare is the ability to disrupt, deceive, or destroy enemy electronic systems. Radar, communications, GPS, drone navigation. Iran has invested heavily here for over 2 decades. The drone capture in 2011 was the most public demonstration, but there have been many others. In the Persian Gulf, American naval vessels have repeatedly reported GPS disruptions and spoofing events. Iran has developed jamming systems capable of disrupting communication networks used by American forces in the region. They have demonstrated the ability to interfere with the data links that connect American drones to their operators. None of this makes Iran more powerful than America in a direct fight. But all of it makes American military operations in the region far more complicated, far more uncertain, and far more expensive than they would be against an adversary, without these capabilities. And then there's the naval dimension. The Persian Gulf is one of the most strategically critical waterways on Earth. It is also one of the most confined. It averages about 55 kilometers wide in many places. American aircraft carriers, the crown jewel of American naval power, are massive, powerful, and extraordinarily expensive. They are also not designed for confined, shallow water combat against swarm tactics. Iran has built its naval doctrine entirely around this reality. They operate swarms of small, fast attack boats, hundreds of them, armed with missiles, torpedoes, and mines. They have shore-based anti-ship missile batteries lining the Gulf coastline. They have submarines specifically designed for shallow water Gulf operations. The strategy is simple and brutal. In the event of conflict, you don't need to sink an aircraft carrier. You just need to make operating one in the Persian Gulf too dangerous to risk. An aircraft carrier costs $13 billion to build and approximately $7 billion per year to operate. The thought of losing one, not just the financial cost, but the symbolic and human cost, is a strategic constraint on American decision-making that Iran has deliberately engineered. Let's talk about something most Western coverage completely ignores: Iran's cyber capabilities. In 2012, a virus called Shamoon wiped 30,000 computers at Saudi Aramco, the world's largest oil company, in a matter of hours. American and Saudi intelligence traced it back to Iran. In 2021, cyber attacks on Israeli water infrastructure were attributed to Iranian actors. Iranian cyber units have targeted American financial institutions, American government networks, and American defense contractors repeatedly over the past decade. The United States Cyber Command officially lists Iran as one of 4 primary cyber adversaries, alongside Russia, China, and North Korea, a country under full economic sanctions. A country that cannot buy advanced computer chips on the open market has built a cyber warfare capability serious enough to be listed alongside Russia and China. That is not a small achievement. Now I want to step back and ask the bigger question, because this video is not really about Iran versus America. It's about something deeper. It's about what happens when necessity forces innovation. Every single capability I've described, the drones, the missiles, the electronic warfare, the cyber operations, came out of constraint, came out of isolation, came out of being told by the world's most powerful nations, you cannot have access to our technology. And Iran's response, over 40 years, has been to build its own. Is Iran's military more powerful than America's overall? No. Not even close. But Iran has built specific, targeted, asymmetric capabilities that directly challenge the assumptions American military power is built on. And in doing so, they've forced a rethinking at the highest levels of American strategic planning. There are classified Pentagon reports, portions of which have been declassified and discussed publicly, that describe Iran's missile program as a serious and credible threat to American forward-deployed forces in the Middle East. That language, serious and credible, from the Pentagon, about a country with 1/80th of America's defense budget, says everything. Let me give you one final example that ties all of this together. In April 2024, Iran launched a direct attack on Israel, the first direct attack from Iranian territory in history. Over 300 drones and missiles were launched. Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, Jordan, and France all participated in the defense. the vast majority of the projectiles were intercepted, and Western media declared it a failure. But here's what that framing missed entirely. Iran launched that attack knowing most projectiles would be intercepted. The point was not to destroy Israel. The point was to force 5 of the world's most advanced militaries to fully activate their air defense systems simultaneously, and to demonstrate that Iran could overwhelm those systems with sheer volume if it chose to escalate. It was a capability demonstration disguised as an attack. And the cost to Iran? Significantly less than the cost to the defenders. That is asymmetric thinking at its most sophisticated. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. The story of Iran's military technology is not a story about one country being more powerful than another. It is a story about what happens when a nation is forced, absolutely forced, to innovate from within. It is a story about asymmetric thinking, about finding leverage instead of trying to match strength with strength. And it is a story with implications far beyond the Middle East, because every rising power in the world is watching what Iran has built, and taking notes. The era of military dominance through raw spending power alone, that era is ending. The next conflicts will be won not by the side with the biggest budget, but by the side that understands leverage, that understands precision, that understands how to turn an enemy's greatest strengths into vulnerabilities. Iran has been studying that playbook for 40 years, and the rest of the world is only just beginning to read it. If that thought makes you uncomfortable, good, it should. Because the world is changing faster than most people realize, and the narratives we've been told about who is powerful and who isn't, they are no longer as simple as they used to be. This channel exists for one reason: to dig beneath the headlines, to go past the talking points, to find the real financial and geopolitical history that shapes our world, and to tell it to you straight without the spin. If that's the kind of understanding you're looking for, join this community, because the next video goes somewhere even deeper, and I promise you, you won't see it covered anywhere else.